I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 색다른 느낌으로 만든 음악, 나만의 세상 만들어 장악. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 해가 지고 뜰 때까지 I'm up, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have an exciting show. I'm joined by somebody who is quickly become a good friend. Javeriar, thank you for coming on. How old are you exactly?
21.
Okay, so I'm 21, you're 21, and we're gonna have a little bit of a conversation today about Gen Z in general. But what do you fill your day-to-day with right now?
So as things stand, basically every day just working at the tax and accounting firm that my father has been running for the past 20 years. Making sure everything's all right as things stand, going over files of our clients, both of corporate and personal. And also we have a cafe unit, St. Lawrence Cafe. So making sure all of that business side goes well. And if any products need management or we need to add new products, then to do so accordingly and make sure we hit our targets as we'd like.
I have to give you props because you carry yourself so much older than what you actually are. And it even comes across to somebody like me who's your age. And I love it because I think, there's very few people our age that kind of do that. And the amount of responsibility that you take on in your day-to-day is quite impressive, while also being in school. And then during the summers or during tax season, you're, head deep in books and trying to make sure that people balance their books and get the money to the CRA as they need, right? Yeah. So the first segment I wanted to cover was a little bit on tax and financial literacy gaps within our generation. So you're currently in school. Where are you going?
I currently go to the University of Toronto.
Okay, and for what?
My main major is in environmental science, and my two minors are in applied statistics and economics.
Got you. So you kind of have like a broader understanding of what's happening in the education system because you've done you're in a couple of different classes. You see kind of the broader trend of what our generation is going through. Mm-hmm. And I thought it'd be unique because you have a business career that you're working in accounting and in the cafe. And I know you play a significant role in that and driving that with the family, but then you're also in school. I'm not in school. I went to school, but now I'm running my own business. So we can kind of relate in that way, which I found unique. One of the things that I was curious, so I have a study here. According to TD, 30% of Gen Z don't understand how a TFSA works. In a broader scope, are we seeing education change for the better in this way, making people more financially literate or illiterate?
I think, in my opinion, what the current education system needs to do is, instead of going all textbook by textbook, I think we more so need to apply real-world aspects and real-world techniques, which come 5, 6 years later on, once they graduate, that they're going to have to face and understand how to, financially manage accordingly.
What are you seeing right now with regards to financial literacy in school? I mean, even take yourself back to high school. What did you see? What did you notice? What didn't you see?
Yeah, I'm going to be outright with you. It was mainly, just theoretical textbook sort of things. And in terms of the real life aspect, I had to literally learn that through work and also through the internet. So
you went to high school.
Yes.
You probably went in an accounting class in high school as well. I mean, I think that's pretty standard. Yeah. There's some sort of accounting class. Even just in that regard alone, just understanding finance, but then going into the real world at such a young age, was there a massive learning gap jumping into the real world still, despite now also being in university as well?
I would say because of the expertise and the experience I had from the tax and accounting firm that I worked at, I felt a lot of things were, in some ways, you can say, similar to what the stuff I was learning at school, because any aspects or theories that I would learn at school, based on the stuff that I've learned in real life, I could apply, and it would make a whole lot more logical sense.
Okay, so you're saying a school in some capacity, actually in most capacities, prepared you quite well for tax and accounting.
I would say the stuff that I learned through work helped me translate as to what I can learn in school. So therefore, overall, the decent 50-50 balance.
Okay, so you were making a point about what needs to improve around financial literacy in the school system. We've got about 45 seconds here left, so take your time a little bit. But what do you think we need to see around the financial literacy side, just in the school system? And I kind of want to jump on this too.
I would say, again, more on the real life applications, less on the theory, more of the real life. So learning more about how TFSAs work, T4s work, T3s, T5s. And those sort of things.
Okay, interesting. How do you get somebody to engage in that, though? I'm thinking if I'm in high school, I'm not going to engage. I don't care about this. But I don't care about it at all.
Well, eventually, you do have a point where people may not care about it like currently. They will have to care about it later on when they have to file their taxes. So, for instance, go over exemplar calculations and go over. People have different learning styles, so go over it step by step and understand methodically how, as to how each box number or how each form or file works individually.
Interesting. Have you seen, your friends in some capacity, really quick, yes or no? Have you seen them want to take this kind of stuff on, or are they kind of still trailing behind?
I would say there's a growing number, yes.
Okay, all right, that's fair. We'll jump right back into it. We'll get into a little bit of the consumption thoughts around our generation. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to hear more.
Rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, yeah.
Okay, so we're back discussing with Javier around our generation, spending habits, some of the trending topics around our generation. One of the ones I wanted to talk about was consumption. There is a growing trend right now, Javier, around underconsumption on TikTok. I've been seeing this, and I'll be honest, I'm even feeling it as well. Have you seen young people almost trend along the idea of, I don't want to spend money. I'm almost exhausted from people wanting so much money from me all the time, whether it's a social experience or it's like clothing or it's ads or social media ads or whatever it might be. What are you seeing on the ground?
Very simply, yes. And the reason being is, post-COVID, and even now, StatsCan released a report of youth unemployment being at 14.6%.
Is it really?
Yes. Not a lot of people have a lot of disposable income post-COVID, especially I have to deal with clients, with our age, having to deal with 3-4 jobs, and yet they still can't eat, they still can't make ends meet. So it's literally survival mode. We're all crabs in a bucket at the end of the day trying to make it out. And therefore, that is a crucial reason why people don't really have the ability to spend as much, because there's not a lot of disposable
What
income.
do you see the average young person spends a month and they're in school? What do you see?
While they're in school, I would say around, with everything, like 2,500 to 3K.
And that's with rent and food and everything?
Yeah.
Is that sustainable?
Sustainable? Yeah.
Where are they getting the money from? Because they're in school, they can't work.
Yeah. Well, if they had worked, previously if they had the previous T4s, then they may have accumulated some savings from that. But also at the same time, they may have had to get some stuff from parents because, they're not Warren Buffett at the end of the day, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, and that's a fair point. Let me ask you this. Underconsumption, is that a trend, or is it something that's actually you're seeing as a consumer shift? Do you think that that's going to last?
I think for the next couple of years, this theory of underconsumption is going to be there for a slight bit because we're still, getting back to normal. But then give it a couple of years later, and I think I do hope everything should be back.
What is normal? Because even I think for my generation and our generation, we don't really know what normal is. I mean, we were coming out of high school, COVID hit, totally screwed up what normal is. A lot of people maybe got CERB checks and, they had a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And so they went out, they spent it, or some people, if they were smart, they saved it.
Yeah.
And from there, they, didn't really know how to adjust back to normal. Like, what does normal look like? Is it going out a couple times a week? Is it going out never?
Well, I mean, from a Canadian financial perspective, I think we're going to be looking at possibly another decade because, again,
Really?
we're coming out of a recession, as you and I know. So everyone's, not just the youth, but everyone's financial situation is not the same, right? Because, again, like I said, they have to work many jobs in order to make ends meet. So if we have to, in waiting for another decade, pre-COVID level, that is when it looks, at least based on my research, that everything should be fine. Because as things going, people still have to work to survive.
So I'm going to tell you something. You and your family, you run a cafe. So when I'm going to a coffee shop on a Saturday, if it's local, I love supporting it. But if it's not, or if it's maybe a big chain, I'm noticing even when I speak to friends and whatnot, if somebody's trying to get $7 out of me for a coffee, I don't want to pay it. Or I know many people who are thinking, I don't want to pay it. I just don't want to pay it. It's this idea of, that's just too much money. So screw that. I'm not going to pay it. Are you seeing that is that going to be almost a readjustment that businesses have to make, or is the consumer going to have to adjust to that cost and shift their, financial literacy or savings around that cost, that $7 for a coffee? What are you seeing, or what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, basically because the cost of goods has gone up, especially with what's going on with tariffs these days. I think it's an onus on both that, the consumer has to eventually, come to grapple up with terms that everything's going to become expensive with regards, to business adjusting the prices, because they too have to make sure that they survive as well. So at the end of the day, just to summarize, the consumer just have to, come to terms with the grim reality that everything is becoming expensive.
But what does it do to businesses if the consumer, like the average Gen Z, is just kind of saying, I don't feel like paying that, so I'm not going to do it?
Well, it is going to take a hit for businesses because then they won't be able to get as much as they wanted.
Well, and tax revenues too.
Yeah, that too. It's just the common denominator that you have to live with what you have to live with because of what we're facing at the moment.
Do you think this is coming from financial strain or from a almost like, almost like a shift in culture, where they're like, I don't need that, so I'm not going to get it?
I think it's a financial strain which leads to a shift in culture. I think they're interconnected because like I mentioned earlier, not everyone has a bunch of disposable income in their hands these days.
That's fair.
And because of this one, it is going to translate directly into the point you just made right now. Thereby people are going to have to consume less at the end of the day because they don't have a lot of their hands.
I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, yeah.
Okay, so we're here discussing job markets and AI bias, but specifically for our generation. And Javier, one of the questions that I had for you, and I want to make this a discussion point, is just the idea around AI evolving the way that people get hired. So as an example, AI right now is screening resumes for HR departments rather than people looking at them and kind of judging people based off of, I don't know, maybe something else that human beings do. One, do you think that's wrong, or do you think that's okay?
So with the evolution of artificial intelligence, I think there are some pros and cons to it. I personally myself like to describe myself as an old school person. So what I would do if I was in that situation was I would let the AI do its work, and then afterwards I would, physically manually go through it because sometimes AI does have lapses just to make sure I'm content.
Do you think, though, that if, let's say, a massive company is using AI to screen, does it create a barrier of entry that wouldn't have normally been there if human beings screen the resumes for young people to be able to get their, foot in the door when it comes to their first job of some kind?
I would say it might, because sometimes AI, again, it's not perfect. It's not 100% perfect. It does have errors in what it does. So it may not be able to catch specifically what it's looking for, even though most of the time, HR says, oh, AI is the most efficient. There are lapses at the end of the day in the system with AI. So I feel like human intervention somewhat
Okay,
needed.
let me ask you this. Do you think it's going to create more jobs, or is it going to replace more jobs? Because I know Gen Z is pretty concerned about that. And there's almost, are you seeing an existential dread around what AI is going to do for the job market?
With the evolution of AI, what I have been noticing is that there has been, it's taken over, like minimum wage, a lot of minimum wage jobs, especially in like customer service and retail. So as things going now, with the evolution of AI being very, very fast, I do see it like taking up a lot.
What's stopping me from, instead of hiring an accountant, going on ChatGPT and then saying, I want you to go through my taxes for this year and be my accountant, and I get a GPT that is an accountant?
See, the problem with GPT is, then again, it's an artificial intelligence. Sometimes it may not be updated with the with the latest set or have the minds.
But what if it is?
What if it is?
Yeah. See, this is my point is, we're seeing more and more, even like lawyers, accountants, like even in our industry in marketing as well, like creative planning, campaign planning, like all these things are being done through AI now, where it's like, do you need that person? Do you have any ideas around what that might do
Actually, I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of clients that use Wealthsimple to do it on their own.
Okay.
And then even then they have to come to us because they receive a lot of audit letters from every Canada saying, you're missing X, this is wrong. We need to investigate your file a bit more. So give us this. And then because of all this coil up, they have to eventually end up coming to us and say, look, I need help, even though I did it myself. And Wealthsimple says I did it correct. I'm still getting these audit letters from Revenue Canada. So if that's happening with Wealthsimple, imagine what's going to happen with AI.
Do you see the same thing happening in law and in the creative space? Like, do you see that happening across the board?
Like in those sectors?
Yeah. Okay. So specifically like lawyers, realtors. I've heard so many realtors saying, AI is gunning for our jobs. When we're talking about young people getting into the job market, is it merited that they might think AI is going to replace that entry-level job that I otherwise could have started at that company with and then built myself up? Now I have to get a job that requires 5 years of experience, but I can't go find the entry-level job because it's been replaced by AI.
Well, it's really a sector by sector basis. Like if you're in, like, say, retail or even computer science, unfortunately, that's the grim reality you have to face. But in any case, we still have to prepare with the eventuality that at some point it's going to take a whole lot. So what we have to do is we have to at least take some initiative to go in early and understand before it's basically AI takes over. It's all too late.
How do you get policies that ensure like fair AI screening around resumes, or like, do you think that there's anything young people could benefit from around that? Specific policies around, hey, we want to see artificial intelligence not be used in the hiring process, or like, will we need step-ins for that for young people to be able to get into the job market, get their first job of some kind?
Well, if there's like an increased vocal support and increased volume in social media platforms, eventually companies are going to have to start to notice and say, yeah, maybe we do need a bit of a half and half split between AI and human
So
intervention.
do you think there's a world in which companies say, we don't use AI to hire?
I do hope, but at the end of the day, I know they're going to use AI, but I do hope there is a balance of half and half.
Okay, so both of us are you're in school, but also work, with your family's business in café and accounting, and I work in marketing as well. But I'm curious to know from you. Give me just a quick response here. What would you tell a 19-year-old to invest their time into in order to be able to make a splash in the future world?
If you're in a fortunate situation like I am, where my family is running a small business, go there every day, treat it like a 9 to 5, learn the nuances, learn every single technique there is from top to bottom, learn every single skill there is, invest a lot of time in that to make sure that you are well equipped and ready for what's ahead if you have to take over.
I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, yeah.
So we just wrapped up finishing talking and speaking about jobs and AI. You made one point, if you're blessed enough in a situation to be in a family business, show up 9 to 5, learn the nuances of the business, and then when the time comes, you can get involved. I wanted to ask you though, Xavier, around artificial intelligence affecting just kind of like a wide scope of entry-level careers. Let me ask you, what can the average person do, not specific to their situation, but what can the average person do to really set themselves apart from what AI could threaten their job with?
So thank you for the question. Basically, like I said, I'm an old school person. So what aspects that I would think that would be beneficial that AI can't do is to, again, do it old school, go to treat it like a 9 to 5 and learn everything from top to bottom, whereas with AI, it has everything predetermined, but it doesn't necessarily have the small nuances or the small steps that you learn from a small business per se.
Okay, fair. So you're saying in some capacity, work ethic and just working hard, just work hard.
Those two, yes.
You'll learn.
And working smarter, yes.
Okay, so one of the things, the last point I want to talk to you about was financial strain and social spending, okay? This one I found really interesting. A study found that young adults spend on average $250 a month on social activities. Does that check out with all the young people that you do accounting for?
To add on to your point, $250 in social activities, yes, because what we see is post-COVID, everyone wants to get out and everyone wants to, I guess, have fun, go to all these festivals because we've all been in this unfortunate lockdown situation. So I've also seen increased expenditure in that aspect, yes.
Okay, now let me ask you this. What is that social spending driven by? Is it fear of missing out? We say it FOMO, where people want to get out because their friends are going out and they're spending money? Or is it, this existential dread of I can't save money anyway, so I'm just going to go and spend it? Like, what are you seeing? Tell me, give me in the way of, a young person.
Yeah. So number one, you mentioned FOMO. I 100% agree with you. Number two is to fill in the void of loneliness. Because again, when we were in COVID, we were all, isolated, self-isolated. We had nothing to do. We had no one to really talk to. You can't really do everything over the phone at the end of the day. So I really find that this increased expenditure is used to fill this void of feeling loneliness.
Would you save money now, forget the fun, drop the social spending, or say, you know what? I want to be here to enjoy my life. I'm not going to really bother saving too much money. I'm not going to be super focused on that. I want to enjoy my 20s. I'm not going to save my money as much as what other people do. I'm going to go out, I'm going to spend money, I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to enjoy my life?
I would say the primary, because at the end of the day, I know I have a legacy to build upon. So the onus is going to be on me to make sure that
Okay,
my
but
family
no,
generation
get
is going
me
to
in
be
the
ready.
head of the average person, just a typical person. What are they saying?
Okay, because we can treat me as the outlier. We can say the average person might be a little bit number two, but again, if they're in a small business situation like I am, then they'll probably be number one, if not in the middle between the two.
But why would I say I'm going to save money when a house is like what, 15 to 17 times multiple of average earnings or average salaries inside of Canada, or alone, even rents are almost seemingly unachievable. I mean, I could get away with rent. I just got to meet somebody and then, I can cover my rent costs because I split it with them. Why would I say I'm going to stop enjoying my life for the next decade so that I can live a better life in the future? Why not just look at the now?
Because if you're not built, or if you're not built ready for the skills that you need to survive when you're in your 30s and your 40s, and when you reach your 30s or your 40s, but you've had all your fun in your 20s, then you're going to be basically left stranded while all your friends are above the threshold and the echelon, being like, why didn't I not do this earlier before now when I realize it's too late?
How do you shift the tide around social spending? Because I'm with you. I see it as a concern. How do you shift the tide around it? How do you get rid of it? Or is there no intention to get rid of it, just change the way people think about it?
I would say spend accordingly. Like, of course, I don't want people to be in solitary confinement. What I'm saying,
get out, buy a cocktail.
Basically,
yeah.
What I'm saying is for them to have their fun, but doing it in an according and a calculated manner.
As an accountant, what would you recommend in that regard?
Just spend wisely, and make sure you don't overspend. Make sure you don't underspend. Just make sure you hit the right
numbers.
Too.
There's a lot of people our age that I know. I have friends who, I don't know how much I spend a month. I don't know how much I make a month as an accountant. And as somebody who runs a business, I think we can be quite concerned about that.
Yeah.
Javier, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining me. And if you disagreed with anything we spoke about or want to engage in the conversation, join at My Generation on all socials. And with that, we'll end off with this. Do not simply accept what you were told. Challenge your thinking, engage in differences, and listen to new perspectives. Thank you.
I'ma